Welcome to our class on Introduction to Environment and Natural Resources. I'm thrilled to have you here today to explore this fascinating topic with me. So, let's start with the basics. What do you think the environment means? You might have an idea of what it is, but let's break it down together. The environment is essentially the sum total of water, air, land, and the interrelationships that exist among them and with human beings, other living organisms, and materials. It's a complex system that requires knowledge and information from various disciplines like science, social science, law, and engineering. Think of it this way. Imagine you're on a hike in the woods, surrounded by trees, birds, and a gentle stream. The environment is all that you see, hear, and feel in that moment. It's the air you breathe, the water you drink, and the soil beneath your feet. But it's also so much more than that. The environment is influenced by our actions, and it affects us in return. Now, let's talk about one of the key aspects of the environment: deforestation. What do you think causes deforestation? You might have heard of it before, but let's explore it in more detail. Deforestation is the removal of forests, usually as a result of human activities like shifting cultivation, fuel requirements, raw material for industrial use, development projects, growing food needs, overgrazing, and commercial logging. A good way to picture this is to imagine a forest as a delicate ecosystem. Trees and plants are the foundation of the forest, providing oxygen, food, and shelter for countless species. But when we clear-cut these forests for our needs, we disrupt the balance of the ecosystem. This can lead to the loss of biodiversity, soil erosion, and even climate change. Let's look at some examples. Shifting cultivation, or slash-and-burn agriculture, is a major cause of deforestation. It's a method where farmers clear a piece of land, burn the vegetation, and then plant crops. But this process can lead to the loss of forests and biodiversity. For example, in the Amazon rainforest, indigenous communities have been practicing shifting cultivation for centuries. However, with the rise of commercial agriculture and logging, their traditional practices are being threatened. Another example is the need for fuel. Many people rely on wood and charcoal for cooking and heating. This can lead to deforestation, especially in areas with growing populations. In some parts of Africa, for instance, people collect firewood for cooking, leading to the degradation of forests. Now, let's move on to another important topic: water logging. What do you think water logging is? You might have experienced it before in your own backyard or in a field where crops are growing. Water logging is the accumulation of excess water in the soil, leading to a decrease in the mechanical strength of the soil and a failure in crop yield. Let's think about it this way. Imagine a field where crops are growing. If the soil is too wet, the roots of the plants can rot, and the crops can fail. This is what happens in water logging. The excess water can also lead to the salinization of soils, making them less fertile. To control water logging, we need to prevent excess irrigation and use good quality water. For example, in some regions, farmers use subsurface drainage technology to remove excess water from the soil. This can help prevent water logging and ensure a healthy crop yield. Now, let's talk about non-renewable sources of energy. What do you think these are? You might have heard of fossil fuels like coal, petroleum, and natural gas. Non-renewable sources of energy are finite resources that will eventually run out. They're called non-renewable because they take millions of years to form and can't be replenished naturally. Let's look at some examples. Coal is the most abundant fossil fuel in the world, but its use releases gases COx, NOx, and SOx into the atmosphere. This can lead to air pollution, climate change, and health problems. Petroleum is a cleaner fuel than coal, but its use can lead to the depletion of natural resources and the release of greenhouse gases. Nuclear energy is another non-renewable source of energy that releases high amounts of energy through nuclear fission. However, the main drawback is the proper disposal of nuclear waste, which can be hazardous to the environment and human health. Now, let's talk about renewable sources of energy. What do you think these are? You might have heard of solar energy, wind energy, and geothermal energy. Renewable sources of energy are sustainable and can be replenished naturally. Let's think about it this way. Imagine a world where energy is generated from the sun, wind, and Earth's heat. This is what we're talking about with renewable sources of energy. Solar energy is harnessed through the use of solar cells, which converts sunlight into electricity. Wind energy is harnessed through the use of windmills, which convert the kinetic energy of wind into electricity. Geothermal energy is harnessed through the use of geothermal power plants, which convert the heat from the Earth's core into electricity. Biomass is another renewable source of energy that can be harnessed through the use of organic matter, such as wood and agricultural waste. Let's summarize what we've learned today. The environment is a complex system that requires knowledge and information from various disciplines. Deforestation is a major cause of environmental degradation, and we need to be mindful of our actions that affect the environment. Waterlogging can be controlled by preventing excess irrigation and using good quality water. Non-renewable sources of energy are finite resources that will eventually run out, while renewable sources of energy are sustainable and can be replenished naturally. I hope this has given you a good understanding of the environment and natural resources. Remember, every action we take affects the environment, and it's up to us to be responsible stewards of the earth. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and I look forward to exploring more topics with you in the coming lessons.